All right, thank you. Good afternoon. I am Margaret Kubelenz, the chair of the TPO ITS committee meeting, and we're calling the meeting to order now. Okay, so with that, I think everyone here from the committee has been here before and introduced. And then also online, we have Jeff Sims as well as Achilles. So that makes our committee complete. With the only absence of Thea. Looking for introductions, I'm sorry. All right, so Gail, could we move to agenda item number 2 for the roll call
Yes, ma'am. Margaret Kubelenz,
here?
Brian Zayas,
Here.
Amir Kawaja.
Here.
Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yeah.
Thank you. Fred Baxter.
Here.
All representatives of Thea are excused. Dexter Corbin,
Here.
Jeff Sims,
I'm here virtually.
Achilles Cortellis,
I'm here as well virtually.
Megan Arate, or Edward Albritton. Okay, we do have an in-person quorum.
Thank you, Gail. I appreciate that. Okay, moving on to number 3, public comment. Do we have anyone in the audience that has any comments that's physically here? How about anyone that's online? Okay, without anything being displayed there, we'll move to agenda item number 4, which is review and approval of the minutes. So from October 3rd, the meeting minutes were distributed and reviewed. Were there any comments that came back?
We didn't receive any.
Okay, did everyone have an opportunity to review them? Any discussion about them? Recommendations, changes? Okay, do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes for last meeting. Brian Zayas. Second, Dexter Corbin.
Okay, we have a first, a second. I'm sorry, Fred?
A second.
Okay. With that, we'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None being heard, the motion passes. Thank you. Next action item, we need to move into our election of officers. So thank you, Vishaka. She's distributed each of the jurisdictions that are represented here, and then who the members are and their alternates. And then she's provided a list of the attendance from January, April, July, and October. So are there any substitutes as far as the members, any alternates any recommendations for that? Okay, with no changes there.
So for Plant City, 2 of these are no longer with the city.
Okay,
I think we got the notification that Pauline,
Pauline and Samantha.
both of them,
Yes,
city, okay, so we implement them. And is Frank still an alternate?
Frank is, yeah.
Okay.
okay, that's good. Thank you. Anyone else? Jeff or Achilles, do you have any information or are we good?
It's good on my hand.
You're good for me.
Okay, thank you. Regarding the officer positions, we have 2. We have the chair and then we have the vice chair. So do we have any volunteers or nominations for the chair? Not everyone jump up at once.
I have a motion that we keep the current chair.
Okay. I'll do it. Sure. Anyone else that could be recommended? No? Do we vote for these individually or do we?
If we can keep the same, officers, team committee, then, I think anyone from, who's not an, officer needs to, do first to motion.
Anybody, sorry,
No, go ahead.
anybody wants to be nominated for vice chair or any of the positions?
I would nominate you to be the vice chair. Okay, so we have an opportunity to present the slate of officers as Margaret Kubelenz as chair, Brian Zayas as vice chair. Is it that simple? Can we then vote on that?
Technically,
doesn't-
you don't have to vote if there's nobody else nominated. And you can actually nominate all three positions as a slate if you would like.
Oh, I overlooked the third is the officer at large. And, oh, okay. And you're willing to serve in that capacity again?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, then it looks like that with that agreement, we are going to move forward. And you're considered office. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I just need to keep my notes here. Okay. Well, now that we've taken care of that business, it looks like we can move on. We're going to move down to the status reports. So the first is to discuss the Attain grant initiative. So Raphael?
Rafael de Dios, and I represent the Lisbon County Traffic Management Center. Here to provide a brief status on the text behind this grant award. All right, so the 3.9 million project with a 2.96 million award has a 987,000 county match. It seeks to enhance the safety and mobility through multiple corridors. This case, it will be 6 in the county, major corridors, covering around 75 intersections, 43 miles of county major arterial roads. The specific objectives in this case will be to replace old traffic signal cabinets, replace legacy controllers. Also, transition to a non-intrusive vehicle detection in order to start collecting high resolution controller data, right? With that combined with the ATC controllers. Also, as part of the award, one of the main technologies that we're be working on is the Smart School Bus priority. So the idea is to install an OBU and 30 school buses that are going to be selected, right, and specific to critical New York County Public Schools locations that are not in order to provide priority. Currently, we had hard buses in selected corridors with priority. Now we're transitioning to a new platform. And by doing so, we're, again, that's where the idea came from. And also as part of it, and this is an initiative that we've been working with the city and FDOT and the regional traffic data exchange with smart work zones. And this is a concept of what we're trying to do. And 55 brand new traffic signal cabinets, 70 ATC controllers. Out of those 75 locations, we're planning to select 30 locations to install the stop bar unintrusive detection in 25 with advanced vehicle detection. Also, again, main idea, OBU, to provide, traffic signal priority. And as part of it, also, work in the connected vehicle environment by providing the stop arm activated notification to vehicles that are capable of receiving the basic safety messages. And the last but not least, again, we're working on transitioning the current TTC permit. For those who don't know what TTC stands for, it's temporary traffic control permits, which again, it's anybody that works in the right of way and has to shut down a lane or a road has to apply for a permit. And what we're trying to do is, again, work in the work zone data exchange realm and try to provide real-time traffic status as for lane closures and or road closures to navigation apps. And that will be all for now. Any questions?
Yeah, could you? I did.
Yes.
Go ahead, Fred.
No, I was just curious, what smart application are you guys using with this?
So again, it's still a concept. We have an idea on how we want to approach it. In this case, using Glance, obviously, Glance City is utilizing Glance. So do we, as a major project for a preemption project. So one of the ideas is to most likely utilize their application, but our goal is to share the information with everyone, not to be not to provide the information on solely through one app.
Okay, so you're gonna travel safely, then you're gonna utilize that.
We don't know yet, still a concept, but again, we'll provide more updates as we progress in the planning stage. But yeah, the idea is there.
The project is a very early stage at this point.
Mhm.
So we're still working on the schedule with the grant office. So we're still coordinating that. We hope that we start the project in the next few months. And it's about a year and a half. Some time. About a year and a half of schedule timeline.
Yeah, we're trying to be very aggressive, but also involves construction because we have to replace cabinets. Install the vehicle detection systems, which I think that's the biggest challenge. Involving the construction side of things, but the rest is more configuration and integration.
So Hillsborough County will almost be using the AI Glance system in lieu of an RSU. Is that correct? Or are y'all doing standalone RSUs?
No, so from the RSU, where the priority, it's going to be installed on OBU. It's gonna, but most likely utilize an RSU, but again, the concept's still in the air, how we're going to approach it. The first idea was to utilize the platform system that we're using right now with Glance, but again, still early concept. My approach is slightly different, but again, the idea is still there. It makes it slightly easier, if you will.
I wondered on the detection, that you have the non-intrusive detection. Are you focusing on mainline detection then, or?
All around. Advanced only for mainline, but the non-intrusive, the regular stop bars is all around, all the approaches.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you don't currently have detection, or you're just looking to have detection all the way around? Or,
We do have detection, but we have a lot of issues with old system, in this case being loops.
okay,
And the replacement or maintenance cycle, it's hard on the budget. So we're just trying to, again, support that program of maintenance that's providing new equipment. And it's been in this specific locations that it's so critical to have good performance. And if we have bad loops, which we have in a lot of locations, I guess that just goes against the performance of the corridor. So by doing so, we're trying to select those locations that have bad performance, and then we know that the detection system is pretty bad. and it needs, the system being replaced. So again, we're just trying to look around which more are the worst places that we will benefit from installing the non-intrusive.
Okay,
This will be, ahead of other county projects that are also trying to do the same. So it's already written in our standards to start replacing, old systems with, again, with, non-intrusive. So any new project, any new CIP project, from the county, that involves, intersections improvements will have non-intrusive, but for the most part, this, selected corridors don't have major improvement as for like corridor goes. Just selected location, selected approaches, and what we're trying to do is do a holistic approach.
that makes sense. And then do you have a blend of county-owned signals as well as state-owned signals?
Yes, and so when you go back here too, so we selected 41,301 and
Okay.
56, those being part of FDOT. And 3 county, Sheldon being a Vision Zero high injury network from the Vision Zero standpoint. 56, because again, it connects with USF,
Right,
same as with Temple Terrace. Falkenberg is a major detour, utilized from 75 incidents, along with 301 and 41. So at the same time, we're trying to support the priority to school buses throughout the county. We're also trying to enhance the capabilities of incident management. Again, we experienced a lot of incidents last year, and it was very difficult not to be able to provide same performance or same actions to other corridors in the county.
I see Achilles.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Achilles, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a question. Is this system going to be, at least the connectivity of it, is it going to be part of the statewide SCMS system?
Connectivity, you mean like communications?
No. So you did mention that this is trying to be ready for the connected vehicles as well, and you will be sending some messages out, right?
Yes.
So my question was, is this system going to be part of the statewide SCMS, the Security Credential Management System that the state has as part of other pilots as well that happen in the area? If you know anything about that.
Yeah, so this is Brian. So like he explained, there's some concepts still being designed. We know we want to be part of the data exchange. So if the security credential, it's a requirement, then yes. But at this point, we haven't yet designed that part.
Okay. Thank you, Brian.
That may have answered mine, but I was gonna ask with the school bus system, is it gonna be strictly connected vehicle based, or are you guys gonna use it for like a low priority preemption?
No priority.
Okay.
Yeah, no priority preemption, but it stays on the priority inherent level.
It is.
No preemption per se, as that's the worst states.
Mhm.
Try to keep it away from the preemption. Then we're just trying to segregate those two.
Okay.
Then the low preemption might involve other users within fire rescue. But again, that's another conversation to that.
I understood.
If I may, so it's going to use the concept is to use GPS. So it's not going to be a traditional system per se. It's going to be GPS based, similar to what we have with the preemption and the emergency vehicles. So GPS is going to be knowing which intersection to send the priority to.
Yeah, so right now, and that's what I discussed about HART having the priority in some corridors, like in Fletcher. HART had programmed in selected intersections along the corridor just to have priority on that, on that level. But again, they were directional and non utilizing GPS, so now they're gonna be able to tackle GPS, the signal with through different approaches, with priority. So again, we just try to expand on the focus that it used to be on a directional level.
So this is just, Margaret, this is outside of, the project we have with Econolite
Yes,
just recently. So this is outside of that, right?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, yeah, yeah, okay. Because the way we have the buses configured today is we have some Cisco routers on there, and we're sending, as you mentioned, GPS from those devices. And then, the system digests the.
That's an
GPS data.
It's an edge device that has an application that sends the
Correct, the
request.
GPS, the
Yeah.
coordinates, and then you guys digest the GTFS data, and then it pinpoints where the bus is. So I just wanted to, okay. So outside of that project, cool.
Nick, you have a question?
Yes, what kind of advanced traffic controller are you going to have?
Oh, what got the traffic controller?
Yeah.
So currently we have TrafficWare, but we are transitioning to a new central system platform, which is Q3 Kinetic Mobility. So the new controllers will be the ones that you see in the share screen, the XN ones or two from Q3 into that.
So this is going to be integrated with the ATMS.now system?
Yeah, no, that's gonna be, we're transitioning again to this new environment, so everything that we're gonna be doing here will be utilizing the new platform, not the ATMS.now.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Very good. Any more questions? Thank you for your time, Raphael. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well done. Okay, we'll transition over, and I think it goes pretty quickly. So we have Achilles, our very own, Cortellis, who's from Qatar, to talk about the extended runtime on signalized intersections using backup power.
Thank you, Margaret. Too bad I couldn't be there today, but I'll try my best doing this. So the presentation is, I'm going to talk about a project that we have completed, and now we're working on phase 2 of the same project with FDOT, and in fact the TERL, the Traffic Engineering Research Laboratory they have in Tallahassee. Next slide. So today we're just going to cover a little bit of intro, very high level, and then just high level parts of our project, cover a little bit of information we found throughout the process, because obviously we just simply don't have enough time to cover everything. But if anybody has any additional questions or wants more details, I can share the report that we had that came out for the first phase. And like I said, we're working on the second now. Next slide. So we all experience this, that during hurricanes, obviously we have power that cuts off. The issue there is not that. The issue is that it stays, in some instances, it stays for a longer period of time. And when I say longer, obviously most traffic cabinets do have a UPS system that provides some backup power for a number of hours. These systems are not new. They have existed for years now, and they are in place. However, what happens is that at times, and we have been experiencing this the last few years, this power is cut off for a longer period of time. So the current systems cannot cope with that. So the TERL was interested to try and figure out, okay, what can we do other than what we're doing now, which is using traditional methods. And I'm going to go through a little bit of detail on that. Yeah, so next slide. So right now, obviously, what the majority of cities or counties do, they basically use portable generators. There is a number of generators stored, maintained, and they're deployed when needed, especially when we're talking about widespread power utility loss. So And we all, I mean, if we don't know the problems with that, is obviously there is an expense to keep them up, maintain them, operational, and then the cost to deploy them and keep them fueled while this is happening is obviously great. At the same time, generators don't provide clean power there. It's pretty not consistent, I should say, even though it does work. However, that can cause also issues with the maybe creating some damage to the traffic cabinet hardware. The idea here is that we need to find a better way to do this, something that's more sustainable. Next slide. So the goal of the project was to identify systems that how can we at least get a minimum of 3 days of power to work the intersection as is. So no additional systems, and we'll talk a little bit about Hillsborough County, actually, the POEP system that they have deployed. It's a little bit different, but this is to work the intersection fully and power it as it is. The idea here was to investigate potential other methods that exist and alternatives for extended backup power. Next slide. So this was a project. I'm not going to go through it. Basically, we always do a state-of-the-art review to see what's out there and potentially even emerging technologies that are coming up. And we did acquire systems and did testing in Tallahassee, and I'm going to show, like I said, high-level details on that. Next slide. But the idea, by the way, before I finish, the idea there was to actually provide at the end recommendations to the TURL and even create specifications so that they can add them to their APL process. This is a high-level schematic that shows, how the system works. It's very simple. On the left side, we have obviously either on the top you have the grid that provides 120 volts AC power, or you could have a number of other alternative fuel. You can have a generator, obviously, or fuel cells or solar panels, or a combination of those. They power the cabinet through a converter and a traffic switch, and then obviously you power the signal devices that are connected to the cabinet. Next slide. So I actually kind of mentioned this, so I'm not going to cover too much. Again, pros for the generators are that the fuel is inexpensive. It is portable and small in size. They're relatively easy to maintain, and it's a plug-and-play situation. But obviously, they do have disadvantages. They're noisy. There is exhaust fumes and heat. You're supposed to actually, when they run out of fuel, wait half an hour before you refuel them. I know that doesn't happen, but that's the protocol. So it's not a constant, power that you can have. Obviously, these need to be deployed, quickly when you have a situation. So there is obviously certain operational issues with having generators. Next slide. We looked at different battery backup systems, and obviously, like I said, this exists, and the images there you see are different from different companies that offer UPS systems for traffic cabinets that are currently in the market. The difference, the big problem with this is that the batteries they use are currently mostly just regular car batteries, if you will. Some of them are, sealed cells, but for the most part, they cannot provide too long of a operation. And the reason for that is you cannot simply basically provide enough battery to cover everything. So obviously, if we wanted to, we can just add a whole cabinet full of batteries, and it can work as much as possible. The good thing about these type of systems that are currently in the market is that the batteries used are fairly not expensive, but their life cycle is short. They are changed between 2 or 3 years. So we wanted to see what else we can find that is longer. Okay, next slide. So this is we obviously did an investigation in the kinds of batteries that there are. I'm not going to go through details, but the idea is to see that there are obviously options or different batteries chemistries. With the most common one that everybody knows, the lithium-ion battery that we all use from our cell phones, laptops, and anything in between. But there's also a few others that are used, like the lithium-ion polymer battery. And of course, these are high-capacity batteries compared to the standard, I'm going to call them car batteries, but the idea is that there are lead-acid batteries, and that's their chemistry. As you can see there, I mean, I know, again, the numbers are small, but the idea is that they can offer a lot of capacity for a short format. So you can pack more power, inside them. And that's the ones that we were targeting to use. Next slide. The other thing we investigated was actually fuel cells. These are not very well known, but they do exist. They are in operation. So fuel cells are basically a chemical reaction. It is not a generator, and they produce very clean energy. They're usually powered either by there are propane ones also, but the most common one is the hydrogen one. What you see there is a picture from an actual backup system in Alexandria, Virginia. There is at least one company that we're able to find that provides these systems. And as you can see on the bottom of that, there is hydrogen cylinders, and that's the fuel for that fuel cell. And the idea is that when they're used, you just exchange them, and you're able to provide power, forever, if you want. These are used traditionally in the telecom industry to provide power for, say, cell phone towers that are completely remote, away from the grid, or it's just too costly to provide that. So, there is great history of using them. But the biggest question was the connection to and the availability, the supply of the hydrogen. So we did investigate them. We provided information to DOT for comparison purposes, and it still remains, in the as an idea, but it's just that at this time. Next slide. This is another one that is well known and actually is used in the industry, both in transportation and again in telecom. It's natural gas or liquid propane generator. This again is more clean than the diesel or the gas generators, and it's efficient. But again, you have to have a storage tank with liquid or gas or liquid propane or natural gas line connected to it, so it can provide the fuel. With the problems that we have there, which is either first of all, you have to refuel that, but at the same time, you have to also make sure that when you store it at the site, it's not susceptible to, say, a car crashing on it and exploding, right? So there are certain issues with this that we kind of provided the investigation when we did it, and we actually tested one too. I'm going to show some stuff later on. And then we finally get to the solar power and batteries. You do see some examples here. In fact, the city of Tampa, I think we've talked about this before, the city of Tampa has done a pilot with a system that it was solar panels on the sidewalk, as you can see there on the right side, the right picture, which, as far as I know, had a lot of issues either with the technology or with the vendor. And at this time, it's reached a point where it's basically done. There is no more communication, because that was a great solution to put in solar panels. As you can see, the other ones would require a structure or a lot of real estate to put them, and obviously intersections don't necessarily have that. So that's where we were looking to see if we could have another solution. So I will speak to that later on. Next slide. So here, just again, high level, we did an investigation because some people might wonder, well, if we put solar panels, are they going to work with the hurricanes, and how does that work? So we did do an investigation on several hurricanes and the weather that happened around them. And this is just an example that shows you that the days, and usually what happens is that the day after the hurricane and so on, we actually have great weather. Usually we have sun. So in other words, the investigation showed that it would work. And the idea is to provide battery for the amount of time that you needed, say, during the hurricane or right after, and then you use solar panels to power the rest of it so that you simply do not need to have a large battery capacity that will cost money. Next slide. So we actually looked at other things too, like supercapacitors. That's the top picture there. It is a methodology, a device used to store large amounts of energy, but usually that's for releasing it on really fast and quickly at a high level. We also looked at, there's projects that were done that they did have wind generators. So as you can see on the bottom left picture, there is studies that were done that provided, as you can see, there is a wind generator on the top, a small one, for this traffic signal. We investigated and we found that Florida simply does not have the kinds of winds we need to make this work. And also we looked at solar powered hydrogen fuel cells. It's a little bit different than the other one. That's a picture from Japan. But obviously you need the whole infrastructure to be able to support that. So obviously, again, that was on the research aspect, but not really applicable at this time. Next. So here we recommended basically to test two systems. Well, it's really the same system with a little variation. The first one, I shouldn't say two, three. So we did recommend to, obviously you can have only battery, right? You provide enough battery to cover the time that you need. You can have a battery and solar combination. So therefore you can have a smaller battery, but then you provide solar power to be able to charge the battery and operate the intersection. We did actually recommend to test the hydrogen fuel cell, but we didn't do that. And we did also recommend to test the natural gas or liquid propane gas generator as well. Next. So we got to testing. So what we did is that we actually measured the power needed. Obviously, to do this, you need to know how much power you need. We did measure the intersection at Fowler Avenue, the power that was needed. You know, that just shows pictures of our data collection. Next slide. So we know how to design the system, how much power to provide, and then we did a test or multiple tests at the test intersection in Tallahassee, where we provided the current cabinet. What you see there on the left image is actually a liquid propane generator. On the right is a gray box, and then on the left you see the actual tank, the white tank. So that's what I'm saying, that if you did that, which works nice, it's able to provide power, no problem. It's a linear relationship between how much time you have running. And as long as you have enough fuel, you can keep that going for a long time. Next slide. That's actually a closer picture. So you see there on the left, the generator with the tank. And the other thing is that obviously you cannot fill the tanks 100%, just like batteries, you cannot use them to 100%. So those are things that you have to take into consideration when we're talking about the capacity. Next slide. And here is a little test. So I'm just showing here basically, like I said, the linear relationship between when you started the test. Obviously, the fuel consumption worked as expected, and it dropped down to 0 when we expected it to do so. So obviously at that point, the intersection stopped working. So we did our test and we just verified what we theoretically, calculated was going to happen. Next slide. And then the other big test we did was a battery and solar system. As you can see here, we had installed, we actually installed the whole cabinet for sake of having space and everything. But what you see there on the right side is there is an inverter and 2 batteries in that case. These are similar systems like you would install at a house, actually, when you have solar panels on your roof. The difference is that you can provide whatever batteries capacity you need to cover whatever amount of time. And in theory, if you think about it, the idea is that, okay, let's say the intersection goes dark because we had loss of power in the middle of the night, then you would have to have the battery to last that until the next morning. And then the solar panels would take over, given that you have enough sun. And in this case, for this test, we actually used 8 solar panels, and you can see them there. It was an overkill. We don't need that many, but we had it so that we have extra power and we could switch on and off how many we needed. Next slide. that's just a picture that shows the good thing also about these kinds of systems is that you also have they're all connected now, and you have dashboards that you can control back at TSC to know how many, what is going on with what is charging what. What you see there, for example, is that the solar panels are charging the battery and operating the little house in this case, but obviously that's the cabinet. And we also tested obviously for the cleanness of the power, and as expected, obviously that's very clean compared to, say, a generator. Next slide. And here, what we're showing is the actual test, two tests. So you see on the top, test 1 and test 2. So it was for 3 days long. What you see there is just basically the production of power from the solar panels. And I highlighted here the nighttime in gray, daytime. So obviously nighttime, there is zero power produced, and during the daytime, you have power. So the idea is that you have to calculate how much energy you produce in that during the daytime, so you can charge your batteries and operate the intersection at the same time. And you see here, for example, test 1, it had a cloudy day in the middle of it. So obviously the generation was less, but it was not zero. Whereas the second test had sunny days, so the production was great. Next slide. And this is the same test, but in separated to show. So what shows here is that what you see on the orange line is actually the power that provides to the cabinet. And as you can see at the end of the second day, we went to zero, because actually what happened, if you follow the gray line, which is the battery energy. So as you can see, the battery energy started fully charged. Then, it went down during the night because it was used. Then during the day, it was charged up again. And we had a cycle that happened there. And then on the second day, because of the cloudy situation, the battery was not charged as expected, obviously. And then we had a shutdown that happened. So we lost power at the whole intersection. So in that case, test 1 didn't work. In the sense, that's an example of what would happen if you just didn't have enough battery to provide the power you need, and you didn't have a good sun every day. On the second test, as you can see, it worked perfectly because we have what we expected generation of power because of the sunny days. Next slide. And the summary at the end, obviously there are viable systems to provide alternative means of generation of power. We tested 3 systems, right? There was the battery solar, and the LPG generator. The good thing is that the systems are available to install with little delays. And now we're working on next slide. We're almost there. Yeah, so it just has some high level points for each of them. I'm not going to go through them for the sake of time, but because I have mentioned most of this stuff during the presentation. Next slide. Yeah, so like I said, basically the idea here is to balance. If you get a battery-only system without solar panels, then it has to be a larger capacity. Therefore, it's going to need more space, and it's going to be more expensive. Next slide. If you combine that with a solar backup here, you are able to obviously have a smaller battery there, but then you need to find a place to put the solar panels. And it brings me to, I think, the last slide there. Next slide. So what we're doing right now is we're actually on the second phase of this, which is implementing. We're going to implement a system with a local agency. Obviously, we want to work with either City of Tampa or Hillsborough County. And we have obviously contacted already, and I spoke to Brandon and Margaret about using the existing site that they have there, and maybe we're going to do that, or even the county if they're interested. But the idea is that what we're doing is that we're trying to figure out a way that makes sense to install solar panels at the intersections. And of course, this system would not be necessarily for every intersection, because obviously there is a cost to it. I think, and what we're doing with our project is identifying how we can prioritize which intersections need this. And of course, we're going to target these intersections or intersections on evacuation routes to make sure that those are obviously functioning as much as possible. And just so that I don't forget, obviously Hillsborough County has developed and deployed their own system, which uses flashing beacons for it, one for each direction, or maybe two as a standalone system, in addition to the traffic cabinet, and obviously that has worked for them. And I think it's out, I forget in how many places. And now there is actually a company that will provide um, a bulb, basically a signal head that is able to be powered either from AC, so from the grid, or from DC power from batteries. And that way you don't have to install additional beacons. You can just replace the signal head and just have that functionality there. We think that's a great solution because it brings down the requirements of how many other batteries or solar panels you have to put out there. And of course, Hillsborough County, when they did it, they added 2 small solar panels to their intersections when they have this. And I mean, that was a great idea, I think. And we will use that as a backup in case this project, which, like I said, was to power the whole intersection full operation, does not work at the end because of costs or any other issues that we have. And that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question right now?
Yeah, I have a question.
Ryan's, go ahead.
So I like what you mentioned that sometimes we're looking for one solution, but you could actually combine more than one and use them both, right? You can have the low voltage and the, but I have a few questions. I am of the personal opinion that it's always better to have low power equipment than to actually go low voltage.
Yep.
In a traffic cabinet, and the reason is it's probably an easier transition for the traffic cabinet if we keep the 120 volts on which is how everything is wired, but you actually go low power.
Yep.
So you could have a lower power consumption equipment. And my comment was directed to the APL, for example. I don't know how power usage is evaluated when they are approving equipment for the cabinets. Because if it's all the same, you have an equipment that has 100 watts and the other one is 1,000 watts, then probably better to use the 100 watt. And that's my opinion, right? Equipment. So
yeah. So a good question, Brian. So actually, in our first phase, we did look into low voltage and DC actually voltage cabinets that are new, that are coming out, right? 48 volts, because that's a great solution. You don't have to worry about high voltage that has other issues with it. Plus, you don't need to convert anything anymore. Actually, you need to convert it once when it comes from the grid. With these backup systems, obviously it would work. And the turn was, in the beginning, they were interested, but then it became too complicated. So they said, because they are looking into providing specifications for low voltage ATC cabinets in the near future. I don't have a timeline yet, but that's on their radar. So when that happens, obviously we hope it's going to help. I have to say though that when we investigated the benefits of using low voltage simply for backup, a low voltage cabinet wouldn't necessarily reduce the amount that you need, right? Power is power. Doesn't matter if the voltage is high or low, you still need the same power. So the only thing is that if you're able to change everything, like for example, the traffic heads, the LEDs, if you change them to low voltage, they are able to work with less power, a little bit less, not too much. So if you count everything, right, a large intersection can have, I don't know, 21 or more signal heads. There's a lot of LEDs out there, right? So if you're able to reduce everything down, then you could potentially even save or reduce the consumption that you have. But and low voltage is good for safety as well, right? The technicians that go out there, they don't need to be dealing with AC power that's dangerous. They can deal with DC and low voltage. And I think that's where we're going next. But at this time, it's simply just too early, I guess, to have anything like that.
All right, thank you.
thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, I had a question. Could you go back a couple slides where I think it was the lithium battery one? Oh, that's too far.
No, that's too far. We need to go forward.
Keep going forward.
I don't control the slide, so I don't know.
Yeah, it was down in the conclusion section.
Okay,
Okay,
next one.
okay, this one. Okay, so this says lithium battery only system. And it says does not require maintenance or refuel. Transfers the load instantaneously, similar to UPS. Okay,
Oh,
I
iPhone.
didn't
Yes.
read fast enough, so I wondered whether the battery, the lithium battery, like you have, instead of generators, you have lithium batteries where the lithium battery you can bring it to the site and you plug the lithium battery in where the UPS, or they can charge the UPS,
You can.
like a generator would.
You can. I mean, that would, yes. So that's a good idea, Margaret. I mean, that would be a solution, say intermediate solution. So instead of having portable generators to lug around, you would like batteries. Yes.
Okay.
And
That's-
keep in mind, now that you mentioned this, I just also want to say that obviously the other thing that so like I said, most traffic cabinets have a UPS system inside with a small battery capacity already for up to 6 to 8 hours of operation or flashing, right? The idea is that you will not have to do those if you put an extended battery backup system because it's the same thing. So this extended system will still work for short, like because now we still have power goes out for an hour, half an hour here and there, whatever, and that system works right now, right? So the idea is to replace that with this bigger one. But yeah, that is a good idea that you mentioned.
Yeah, because the experience that we had with Milton was that it was just so fluid as far as, where the generators or what needed a generator.
Yeah.
And
So-
then because it's on battery backup, anyway, it gets complicated. That's
It
all.
does.
We'll talk about this right after you're done.
Okay.
But I was just curious to know, instead of doing a generator, whether you had a bank of these batteries that you could just go out and deploy those instead of generators. Is
and
one
I
of the challenges, your generators run out of fuel, so you're always having to refuel, and if you're 3 to 4 days, I mean, that's like constant going around in that cycle of making sure all your generators are fueled.
And I mean,
Okay.
and I should say this, obviously, the reason you're doing that is because you don't have a space for the generator there. Otherwise, it would be there all the time. And that's the idea, right? I mean, Terrell was interested in having a solution that does not require anybody to go out there and put anything after a hurricane. It's there and it's working, right? That's actually the other. I mean, we started with high kind of aspirations on this project, right? So, because if we can get to that point, then we're saving a lot of time, a lot of complex operations, lagging around stuff. So that's the other kind of objective of this type of work. And I should also mention, by the way, that we actually applied for this big grant. It's called Gulf Futures. I believe the city and the county were actually part of it, and it's a $20 million grant that we're still in the running. We don't know the result yet, and we submitted this system as the solution to this problem, if you will. So we're expecting to hear back, I don't know, sometime this year. So if that goes through potentially, then we might have some good funding to at least fund some intersections, right? Because at the end of the day, it's all about cost, right? Nothing is impossible. It's just about how much does this cost and what does it save us on the other hand, to be able to do it.
Okay, and then the other technology that you're studying with the battery backup, and then in addition to the solar panels. So it looked like initially, based on that test 1, test 2, that potentially we would need more battery capacity.
Yeah.
To sustain it overnight. That's what you were stating, right?
Well, no. So yes. So basically, the test worked, right? When you have basically this test worked because on the second test worked, I should say, because we had enough sun to be able to charge it as designed. What happened is that we had one day with cloudy, therefore it didn't produce as much, so we had an issue there. So the answer to that is yes. Obviously, you start with a larger battery to begin with. And that's what this project we're working on now is about optimizing this system to be able to make sure that you cover certain aspects. And I should say that obviously we're also setting requirements, right? So what is the requirement? I mean, the 3 days I talked about was something that they came up with. Also, it's okay. So what is the minimum acceptable number of hours that you have to have this system on, right? Again, it's all about money at the end of the day, and that's what we're doing now. We're actually part of this project working on now. It's going to have a benefit cost analysis as well, because at the end of the day, it's all about, well, it put more batteries, but they cost more money. So, do you want to do that or just take some chances afterwards? It's,
Okay. Brian?
Question, when you made the test, was that cabinet like a normal cabinet that you would find in terms of the type of equipment inside of it? I mean, a
So-
control, it wasn't,
Yeah.
or was it, or did you look for specific or efficient components that were using less power?
No, that was an existing cabinet. In fact, an old cabinet they had, and in fact, it was overloaded because it was a test facility there at Turl, and it had even more consumption than a regular cabinet, a little bit more, not crazy. So yeah, it was a standard cabinet, as you would find on the field.
So the follow-up question is then, would you agree that if you take the components and use efficient components in terms of power usage, like everything in the cabinet is reviewed so it uses less power, would that
Correct. So-
actually convert it to a successful test instead of a failed one?
Yeah, so this test wasn't failed, right? The whole idea is that we wanted to see what would happen, and we got exactly what we needed. Keep in mind, I mean, you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, if you use efficient components or low voltage, like you said, then you expect to have a better system overall. And I agree, but it's all about capital investment. At the end of the day, the Turl was interested to see what can we provide right now with the situation as it is without requiring updating everything and upgrading all cabinets and whatever, right? If you guys are replacing, for example, through the Attain program, cabinets and controllers and everything, if you had these requirements in mind, then you could look into more efficient, controllers or whatever. But for the most part, they're all working the same, so it's not like they vary that much when it comes to battery consumption.
I have seen difference, like I've seen equipment 400 watts and the same type of equipment 80 watts. That's a 5-to-1 ratio difference in power usage.
Correct. They're not all the same. Yeah.
The other part I wanted to talk about is, have you considered taking the cabinet or the intersection into a low power mode operation? So instead of just flashing,
Yes.
you can, for example, turn off the detection system that may be power hungry and just go into max recall, and then
Yep.
it will go into low power usage and then flash and then eventually go dark, but at least you have more time to extend the operation.
Absolutely. So those scenarios, if you will, or conditions under which you can have reduced power are definitely part of it. And yes, you're right. These are strategies you can do to extend how much the battery will go. But again, this also play with the money as well, in the sense, if the money that you spend and are acceptable for a backup system are able to power a full intersection without adding additional strategies, then we can go with that. If not, then obviously we can look at, all right, how can you reduce exactly the power requirements? So those are things that we looked at and we will continue to look at. But again, those, because they require a little bit more involvement from local agencies, or you have to change or add another plan on your controllers, then obviously it's just a little bit more complex. But there are definitely solutions to this issue of, okay, it doesn't work if we have a cloudy day, which we have those too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you already do that? With the stepping it down on the power usage?
No. So at this point, what we have is just system will go into flash.
Right, that's what we do.
And then-
Essentially,
and then-
it draws down to a certain point, then it goes to
And
flash.
then just when it goes dark, it goes into a POEP mode, which is the flash, the low voltage flash that we have with our beacons. So we've taken a look at using equipment that is less power hungry. Every time we evaluate, for example, network switches, which is something I've been doing, instead of getting the 400-watt switch, let's get it with the 80-watt switch. It's all the same.
Also that, to add, what Philip was saying and Brian, I know that the Signal Shop team is working with GE, for a, beacon that, that uses less power.
Okay,
So in order to replace the pole web, instead of, adding the pole web, now you only have the red indication
Mhm.
as two ways. But the problem is, the flashing operation, how do you alternate and keep it safe and less confusing to the regular drivers? Right, and instead of regular flashing yellow, main line, red side street, now you have to have, red all around.
Mhm.
So that's still in the works, but yeah, it's something.
Okay, great.
And the final thing I wanted to say is that there was another thing I didn't mention. If you think about it, there is also another benefit is that if you have a few of these intersections out there with the solar panels that are able to produce power when you don't need it, right? There could be an agreement to sell the power back to the grid and therefore, be able to cover some cost on the electricity as well for cities and counties. So, I mean, you could have 50 intersections producing power. It's a small power plant, right? So that's another benefit that we will consider.
Excellent. Well, this is great research and I appreciate you doing it. This is great. Right here.
Thank
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Achilles.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving to this, I think that's a 7. Yeah, the 7th, agenda item, old business and new business. Does anyone have old business they want to bring forward? Okay, new business. Okay, then I'll go. So on the back of this discussion about battery backup and then our traffic signals, what happens when they lose power? And then the phases of what it goes through, assuming you have UPS, and then once the UPS goes out, how are you powering that and what that process is? So now that we're done with Gasparilla in the city of Tampa, and well, at least the big stuff, we do have a run coming up again, and then Knights Parade, of course. But we're shifting our focus to start prepare for the storm season in a way that we hadn't before, because we do want to modify the way we address the outages, because it's such a fluid environment. And then how do you have current data, like the most current data, and having that shareable? I know that Hillsborough County and Plant City, that there's, we have state signals within our jurisdiction, and then how that adds a level of somewhat complexity. I don't know what else to call it. Of course, our responsibility being local government, we have first responders, and we have that first boots on the ground, assessing the conditions, and then how do we make sure that that data is shareable? I'm not ashamed to say that we had a lot of challenges as working with TPD, because they are boots on the ground, and then they're feeding information to their own system. And I'm sharing dirty laundry here, but anyway, they're sharing their own system, and it's very isolated, it's archaic. And then how do we get it? And we ended up doing redundant work. And then how are we sharing it with DOT? So I just wanted everyone to know that because it does take a while to get all this moving, I'm pushing my team to make those next steps. So I have a meeting, or I talked to Alice Price, who is on with the Tampa Bay Smart Cities Alliance. So she is working with Megan and I think Edith and Liz Winters. And I think those are the right players, and I apologize if they're the wrong ones. But we're going to meet with them to talk about their e-storm system, and then how they're doing assessment, and how we're working with their contractors, and how we're all integrated and working effectively instead of less effectively. And okay, yes, please.
I had a conversation with Megan on the same topic. We developed,
Recently, how soon?
about 3 weeks ago.
Okay, good, thanks.
Yeah, because we had the same concerns about the the way that they brought the contractors and supporting our operations to bring things back to work. The way that we've been, working on the assessment for the past 2 years is that we developed a survey, utilize the survey 1, 2, 3 through Esri. And I showed it to you guys. And what we've done is to provide, as you know, we do a full assessment every single day, multiple groups, like support from consultant teams. Roughly right now, we have about 10 groups. And again, we go and scan the whole network. So that will provide us and other teams, same with the OEM, BSOC, and provide TCO number, signals are down, and everything comes in every hour basis. We provide that report to them, and then we'll take it from there. So if we need support from the EOC, we always wait every few hours to get a full collection, full patch of intersection. So good, an EC export from the system, CSV, Excel, and again, it just filters out and it provides you all the information needed to tackle that. And it's a trust. You can trust more in that system because again, it's your own personnel that you train and they know their intersections. Aside from what ACSO can do for us, which again is a great help, but they provide information that you're saying, they're boots on the ground, but we can relieve them from providing that level of information.
Right.
And, focus on something else, which they need priority. And on our end, we tackle, that section of it. With, again, we focus solely on the traffic signals
Right.
to bring them down the line and work directly with TCO, providing them that list every, the end of the day. We confirm with the signal shop, everyone confirms that list makes sense. And at the end of the day, provide that to TCO, and TCO now have a full list on, to work on, because TCO, we met with them about 3 years ago, and they don't have a specific way to tag their, meter assets and, label them as being traffic signals. So they know the power is down, but they don't know how many of those are specific to traffic signals. So what we've done is support them and do a dry run before the storm season starts. And we do a scan, basically, a full dry run with all the teams. They can scan all the signals, TCO meters.
Uh-huh.
Something were to happen during the year, they change the TCO meter 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
Now we know this is the latest version, right? And so we do it like a month prior to it. Now we have the latest version, and when that assessment comes in, we can compare if the meter got changed within that time frame. So a little bit work on the side that you have to put together, but at the end of the day, when you go out, the information come from the experts, right, in that network. But so far it's been working great because we can tie in and use that API feed from the survey.
Right.
And tag that and provide that to EOC right away. So it's real time status that is provided to the BSOC personnel.
Okay.
And they receive complaints from citizens because now all the calls are being funneled through their phone lines. They know right away if the signal has been assessed and what's the status behind it. So they can confirm back to the citizen, and we know, or even fire, ACSO, everyone that's at BSOC, working through the emergency with FEMA, they know, what's the actual status on a day-to-day basis.
Okay.
So again, just adding some, if you guys are planning to work on GIS, then there's some.
Yeah. Yes.
Some capabilities within the system, you just have to work around it with your GIS team.
Yeah.
It work.
We presented this survey system we used
Yeah.
back in 23. Since then, we've changed it a little bit with, lessons learned. We keep improving it, so it's tailored more to what we do.
Yeah. And again, the EOC is planning to utilize the eStorm, same with FDOT. So we're trying to merge that data with their system, so they don't have to do the work twice, right?
Right. And that's
So we're trying to merge that GIS data that's already embedded in the survey, that they can blend it in, to their needs with their platform. And it's a GIS, API feed that really connect to any
right.
API feed.
Yep. that's consistent definitely of what we've envisioned so far. And so, yeah, I was anticipating that we would be able to have these conversations before the storm season. And it does make sense that we're looking at it across Tampa Bay. I would think that the DOT would appreciate that, us paying attention. So
Yeah, we have.
definitely want you at the table with these, the successes you've had so far and information sharing. Did you have anything to add with anything within your jurisdiction?
So kind of, I mean, what Plain City does is probably similar. I can't remember the name of the program that they started using, but it basically sends an alert out. There's different levels of priority to all staff. So in the event of like the storm event, they send alerts out to all the staff, notifying them of who comes in at what particular level or period. And then as far as like notification for TICO and our EOC, they've designated a TICO representative. We have representatives from city staff that come in there and operate through our Q Alert system. So Q Alert will actually send notifications to an assignment to a specific employee. It could be a traffic light issue, or it could even a tree down or something outside of the transportation side. So that's kind of what we've been using. We did it through Milton, Helene. The success was pretty high. So I mean, that's kind of what we're utilizing right now, but I think they're always open to, to hear what others are using and what their success rate is.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I mean, we're using Crisis Track, and so that's a GIS-based system too. So, and it's extraction of the data. Oh, yeah.
Everbridge is what we're.
Yeah, we use that for that alert to say, show
Yeah,
up.
the only problem that we had experienced with the system that EOC utilize is that they're not traffic signal specific. What we do is traffic signal specific. So that's the only difference that we have in regards to those platforms that they utilize.
Yeah, so we did, last year during Milton, or just after, we ended up creating a form on the fly. And so in Crisis Track, we can do that. We can tailor a form that is on the mobile phones, and they literally, this is the form for looking at signals, period. So, by chance, do you air tag or do you tag your generators? So with GPS, oh, you don't use generators at all?
On DOT, it's the only one utilizing generators.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then you count on them fueling them and
They
everything?
take care of it. Yep. So we had issues with it because their contractors were not logging the generators to, the right way. And that's where everything started to problem. But again, that's been addressed, and I guess hopefully next season we'll have some lessons learned. Work with the contractors, but yeah, the signal shop, they don't work with them anymore. So they're just solely relying on the POEPs, and again, power to come back. If it's down, it's down.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Appreciate the opportunity. So there is a meeting coming up, I believe it's February 18th, that DOT has requested. I believe Hillsborough County Traffic Operations is hosting the meeting. DOT's asked for Hillsborough County to provide some insight and we'll call it training, but help some folks at DOT understand how the generators are supposed to work in traffic signal cabinets. Speaking directly to the issue Rafael mentioned, this last season, there were some issues with the contractors that were deploying generators and not connecting them properly into the cabinet. They were wiring directly into the power service instead of using the proper cables. So there's a meeting that DOT has requested. It's being hosted, my understanding, in Hillsborough County on Tuesday, February 18th. Talk about some of these issues, lessons learned, what can we do better?
Okay. Well, hopefully they'll share those. And eventually we'll all get in the same room together so we can share the experiences. That would be great.
Try reaching out to her, see if she can share that information with the meeting.
Okay, thank you. I mean, it's Megan's meeting, I assume. So, Okay. Anything else? Vishaka, did you want to talk anything about the data requests sent out for the state of good repair, or is that not ready? I'm sorry, Wade's not here, but
Oh, yeah, I think we never circled back on that. It was, I've gotten the necessary data from Grand City and Jasper County. I think the city of Tampa was still trying in the process of updating their system, so I don't think that's ready. We shall be on that yet, but we haven't had any conversation internally about that project since then.
okay. All right, I'll just let that stand where it is then.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to wait and I can reach back to you.
Okay. Does anyone have any ideas of, additional topics of interest? That you've seen, you've gone to other conferences, you think they may be beneficial?
I have a question here. Park is, I think they just won the grant for the maintenance, heavy maintenance facility, phase one, right? So is there any technological and else?
I'd have to check with our PMO group. I can check and see exactly what the scope is. Let you know. I can check with Linda, rest of the team.
For the maintenance facility?
Yeah,
Okay,
I don't know if it's all structural or if there's a new.
Yeah, I think it's more like phase one is more structural, like more improvements on the fuel lane, more of that stuff, not a big project.
yeah, it's an on-site, maintenance. Anything else? Any other ideas?
I just want to read the committee here, the TPO is processing an LRTP amendment, and that's going to the TPO next week as a public, to a public hearing. So I don't know if you're aware of that. It's been going through some of the committees. It's mainly to add two projects, one on Veterans Highway and one on US 92, branch roads and Macintosh Road. So that'll be presented at the TPO board like next Wednesday, 10 a.m. It's public.
Did we already see something about that?
No, it's just FDOT requested, so once that is processed, we will update the LRTP. It's nothing technological, it's mainly whitening. But I can send you I can send the committee agenda for the TPO.
Okay. Any other ideas? Smart corridors? Okay, so I guess I have an advantage because I sit on both groups. So, again, I can check with Alice or I can forward out unless you are going to, Vishaka, the invitation to the Tampa Bay Smart Cities Alliance. They have a workshop coming up on the 27th. And it's both in person or which is going to be out at the airport if it's in person, but it's also, there's a virtual option as well. So it's a good opportunity to hear what's going on across the Bay. And then they always have innovative applications to discuss as well. And I do believe one of the segments they're going to talk about their smart corridors. So they are doing some evaluations on different corridors across Tampa Bay region to monitor the technologies that are available to see how we can help advance and use more tools to have our whole overall system work more efficiently and effectively. So.
Because I don't think I have it on my calendar.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, well, I guess that brings us to an adjournment. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thanks so much.
That always bring up when they